Apologies for the hitch there. Now, the Ghana cedi continues to depreciate against the United States dollar. The cedi began this week at 11 cedis to a dollar. The cedi has today breached the 12 cedi mark to the dollar within just a week, selling at 12 cedis 10 pesos at most forex bureaus on the retail market. Some forex bureaus indicate that most of the operators are selling the dollar for more than 12 cedis. They claim supply of dollars has reduced significantly. Again, the cedi is losing grounds quickly against the pound and euro. While the pound is going for about 12 cedis 70 pesos, 1 euro is selling at 11 cedis 10 pesos. Isaac Kofi J of our research desk has been visiting some forex bureaus and joins us via Zoom with his findings. Now, Kofi, what did you find at the forex bureaus you visited, and what's about the happening at the interbank level?
Right, so we visited a number of forex bureaus, and you can have a sense that most of these forex bureaus are selling $1 to a cedi about 12 cedis 20 pesos, and these are some of the major market leaders in this the forex markets. But there are also some other bureaus selling still at 1 cedis 20 pesos. And so that's the average. We have majority of the forex bureaus selling at 12 cedis 20 pesos.
Now, there are concerns that the government's demand for dollars for interest payment is putting a lot of pressure on the cedi. How about that?
Well, first, so if you look at the interbank level, for instance, you can still see that the cedi is still trading at 10 cedis 70 pesos for those who are actually buying, and then 10 cedis 72 pesos for those selling. And now on the question of interest payments putting pressure on the dollar. So currently, if you look at us as a country, we are projecting to spend close to 37 billion cedis on interest payments alone. And if you look at this component, you have about foreign components being about 28 billion Ghana cedis, and then domestic component being about 25.5 billion Ghana cedis. Now, if you are paying your debts or interest payments or amortization to your foreign counterparts, I'm not sure you'll be paying in cedis. You'll certainly be paying in dollars. So, Bank of Ghana is also actually demanding the dollar to also pay interest payments as well. The recent, auction that they had, we actually saw that demand actually outstripped supply by over some $75 million in the market. And so going to December, we actually projected that the dollar to the cedi will be about 12 cedis, but we are currently in October and we are still seeing some forex bureaus selling $1 to about 12 cedis 20 pesos.
So that's my colleague Kofi Ajay here. Now let's speak to head of the Insight team at IC Group, Courage Mate, for more on this. Now, Courage, thank you so much for joining us on Zoom on this interaction. What is accounting for the differences in the dollar exchange, and what is the way to cure it?
A very good evening to you. I'm Courage Boti. I work with GCB Capital as the lead researcher there. So as a point of correction, now to your question, what is accounting for the cedi's free fall? In fact, a lot of things, but I think it is chiefly amongst them weak sentiment at this point in time and the general macroeconomic uncertainty. That means that investors do not know what the next steps will be. There have been talks about debt restructuring. Preceding that, the IMF hinted last year during the Article 4 consultation and the report that came thereafter that yes, we spent to, if you like, recover the economy from COVID, but it came at a huge fiscal cost. That means that we need to deploy macroprudential policies going forward to be able to bring back, the economy to where it ought to be, the strength it ought to have, and ensure that sustainability. Those calls, I guess, were not heeded. And then so 2022 budget did not exactly assure investors. And I guess that is why from September last year, we've seen decline in investor holding, offshore investor holding of domestic bonds. And that has continued all through. It's a big part of why the cedi fell sharply in the first quarter. It's a big part of why it fell again in the third quarter. And those risks now have kind of more or less crystallized, where we are in a position where interest payment alone, cost of goods and services, and the wages and salaries is consuming about 130+% of total tax revenue, really. At such instance, investors will be concerned that can government be able to meet the debt obligations to them, is the reason we've had the credit risk downgrades and the repatriations have been sustained all through. I think it's a reason. I looked at some data not long ago, and I realized that the total offshore investor holding of domestic bonds at somewhere September last year stood at about 134 or so billion thereabout. As we speak, in fact, 34 billion thereabout. As we speak, it's about 17 billion. About half of the total holding kind of have been repatriated within the period, and it's because of the uncertainty we have currently prevailing, really. And with these things continuing, the fact that for the last two local currency bond auctions that matured, you realize that the government was unable to raise money on the market to roll them over, which means they have to resort to the central bank for some financing or sort to try to roll over some of these bonds. It increases the risk that what if they are not able to find money from internal sources to pay the next maturity? And then you have talks about debt restructuring that there is no certainty about. So anyone who has money in their hands and want to invest now will be thinking of buying Cedi, because that is what most people are doing, buying the dollars instead of going to buy some bonds, because we are not sure about what will be the treatment on debt.
Grateful, Courage, for your time here. Now, still on the economy, consumers will have to adjust their budgets more as the Institute for Energy Security, IES, predict another increase in the prices of petroleum products on Sunday. The Institute says oil marketing companies will initiate the changes on Sunday following a rise in prices on the international market and the continued depreciation of the cedi. Now, customers will pay between 7 to 12% more for petrol and diesel and about 4% for LPG on Sunday. Let's listen to research analyst with the IES, Fritz Moses.
IES's analysis of the first pricing window of October points to an expected increase in the prices of petroleum products at the various pumps for the rest of the month of October. Now, on the local floor markets, the data analyzed predict or saw on the national average that price per litre rose to some 11.05 cedis per litre. That's an increase of about 1.36% over the last pricing window's figure of 10.90 cedis per litre. For gas oil, prices also decreased by some 3.25%, falling from 14.45 cedis per litre to 13.98 cedis per litre. On the international market, we see petroleum products, petrol, diesel, all experiencing some price hikes due to the increase in price of oil, where we saw for Brent crude international benchmark price increased by some 1.82%. Aside that too, of course, for the various finished products itself, petrol on the international market or gasoline rose sharply by some 15.72% from its initial price of about $833.68 per metric ton to an end date price of 964.75 metric ton. Gas oil also experienced another sharp increase in price also by some 9.60% from its earlier price of $1,001.05 per metric ton to close the window at $1,097.18 per metric ton.
Now, in a related development, the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU, is also seeking a 40% increment in transport fares. The union has been pushing for an increment for months, but was denied the go-ahead because of economic challenges. But the union says they can no longer endure the high cost of business. They are meeting the Transport Ministry and other stakeholders on Monday to pitch their concerns for an agreement. Samuel Amwa is the communications director of the GPRTU, and he joins us live on Zoom. Now, it is clear that the economy is in turmoil, but is 40% not over the top? What does it entail? Kindly unmute so we can follow what you're telling us, sir.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Very clear, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, we are coming out with 40% or more this time around, based on where the components that we use to run our businesses are. You know, the four major components that we use to run our businesses are the petroleum products, the lubricant, the spare parts, and the taxes, DVLA taxes, insurance, and other, assembly taxes. Let me take you back a little bit when we had our 20% increment way back in May. By then, the diesel was about 11.20 when we had that 20% increment. By then, also, the lubricants were increased by 20%. Then the taxes, the DVLA taxes, were increased by 15%. Then by then also the dollar rate was about 8.2. That was when we had our 20% increment. Now, checking on where these components are now. Now, diesel as it stands now is about 13.98, of which is likely to go up, hopefully by Sunday, it's likely to go up to about 15 or more. And then also, the lubricant is being increased by 30%. Now, dollar rate now stands at, I think about 11.2 now. And the spare parts goes up based on the dollar rate, because when they use the dollar to go and purchase their stuff, they come and they charge by how much the dollar is. That is why, looking at all these things that we are coming out with, initially we were thinking of even 40%. But then it's just, came to our notice that the diesel is going to go up in the next pricing window. Maybe by Sunday, it will go up to about 15, cedis per liter. And then we started thinking of this increment way back in July. Okay. July, we were supposed to increase. We didn't do that. August, September, and up to this November, to this October.
That's fine, but obviously, this is not the first time you are raising a matter like this. What happens should the Transport Ministry reject the 40% and over that you are predicting?
Yes, we are not just going there we are not just going to mention any percentage without explaining to them why we are coming out with this. Yes, we know there is economic hardship in the country now, but we cannot continue to run at a loss. Now go to stations and find out from the drivers how what they are going through now.
No, so upon all your explanation, if the ministry says no, what will you do?
Yes, we will agree to that, because we also put it to the ministry that yes, per how much the components are gotten now, we cannot also squeeze ourselves like that. So if it happens like that, then maybe we have to come out with ourselves, like the way we did, last May, by coming out with our own 20%, because we cannot be running at a loss all the time.
So you would increase the fares even if the ministry says no? Is that it? Is it a yes or no? Will you increase the fares?
That is when they begin to postpone our meetings like they did the other time.
Okay, all right. I'm grateful to you for joining us here now.
Join Is Prime was brought to you by
Mala 2 is suitable for adults and children.
Pella, purity comes from nature.